If you're ever working on a project and you need large crowds of people like what's going on here, I'm going to go ahead and push play. There's 156, just say a little over 150 characters in the scene, all animating, all walking about and changing direction and kind of doing their thing. And if you're ever needing to do something like this, there's a lot of ways to go about it. But one thing to keep in mind is you get this many characters in a scene, and it might start getting scary. You might have a lot of geometry, a lot of bones. If you're using IK, that might come into play. Well, the beauty of this scene, we've got these characters and they're walking city streets or kind of shopping in a mall or something like that, but we don't have to go through that much trouble to get this set up, and we don't have to take that much of a calculation hit or render hit because this is actually a pretty simple scene. This is a tip that I picked up from Lee Stringer, and I believe he picked up the setup from Dave Morton at Foundation years ago, and it still comes in handy even today. If you need large crowds like this, there's no reason to take a big hit. If I hit W for statistics, we'll see we have 156 objects and only 15,000 polygons. Okay, so we're not really in any kind of trouble here as far as poly count or just anything that's going to hit the system hard. Also, there's no bones. And I would say there's no animation, but we can see that they're animating, but there's no complex animation going on. I can see little people walking around, moving, but let's go ahead and I'm going to push play and zoom in, and we can see they're actually quite simple. The geometry is around 100 polygons. Okay, their walk cycles are pretty straightforward. It looks like they might have taken a lesson from Darth Vader or Frankenstein, and they have this little Frankenstein type walk going on. But the important thing is that from this distance, we've got a crowd of people walking, and it's pretty straightforward and it's really easy to set up. So I thought we could take a look at the basic setup for building a crowd like this. Okay, and we'll go ahead and do that. So keep in mind this works out really great if you're needing to see a crowd of people from a distance, which happens all the time. I can think of a lot of movies and television shows that I've seen where they've used CG doubles for armies and things like this. And there's no need for each character to be super high poly with lots of bone rigs and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this and let's clear out the scene. And I'm going to head over to Modeler where I've got William. This is our little character I've named William. And he's as simple can be. I mean, he's just really straightforward. And W for statistics tells us he's 109 polys, which I don't know if we can get any lower than that. Maybe shave a few polys off the head, but I don't think it's going to buy us much. Okay, so if he's this simple and he doesn't have bones, how are we going to drive the animation? Well, this is the fun part. We're just going to use a morph. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up the first pose for my walk. So I'm going to grab this arm, rotate it forward, kind of do a little position like this. Then I'm going to grab this geometry and move it back. Now we've got the arm swing for our walk. It's this simple. I'm going to go ahead and grab this geometry, and if this arm is forward, I need to move this arm, I need to move this leg back, something like that, and then I'll do the exact opposite with this leg, move it forward, and maybe rotate a little bit. So we got a little walk pose, okay? And now all I have to do is do the exact opposite, and I've got a little walk cycle that we can work with. So I'm going to go over to M for morph, new, and just call this walk, create, and now my job is to do the exact opposite here. So I'm going to move this back. move this forward. I'm just moving and rotating. T for move, Y for rotate. Okay, and then I'm going to grab this leg. Kind of set up the same little pose there. Grab this leg. Now we've got our little walk cycle. We're gonna animate from this to this to this to this. So we got our little walk. I'm gonna go ahead and save this and send it over to layout. Okay, perspective. We'll go ahead and go to texture wire, texture shaded. Okay, so I've got my little character. Now I just need to make him walk. Okay, so let's go ahead and set that up. We'll go over to Object, Properties, go over to Deform, Add Displacement, and we're going to come down to Morph Mixer. It's got one morph. Double click, size this up some, and what we're looking to do is animate this, and I don't want to have to keep setting keyframes, so I'm just going to go over to the graph editor by clicking the E for envelope, and a walk cycle usually takes around a second, so I'm going to set a keyframe at 15, and I'm going to say 100%, and then instead of setting up a bunch of keys, I'm going to have the pre-behavior oscillate and the post-behavior oscillate, and now just by setting one key and doing that, we've got our little walk. So our character is walking over and over and over again. I'm going to add a few more frames. Let's just do 120 frames because it'll keep going and going and going. Now up close, this is a horrible animation. Okay, from a distance, for our crowd simulation, we got a little character walking. Okay, and we can get fairly close, and our character is walking. Now he's walking in place, but we can fix that. That's an easy fix. So what we'll do is we'll just grab this guy and we'll move him, and we just have to see, looks like he's walking down the path. Now if we want, we can have him move over here, and I'm going to rotate him a bit. So I'm going to rotate him in the direction he's walking, and then I'm going to move him. It's because he's got to dodge some other people maybe. Okay. Coming back here, I'm going to rotate him. There we go. So we got our first little guy. He's moving along, walking, dodging things. He's got to move around that light right there and move around the camera or something like that. Okay, now once we have him set up, all we need to do is clone him a bunch of times. I'm just going to clone him once. Okay, and then I'll move over to Modify, Move Path, and I'll just move him over here. And now we've got two people. Now they've got the exact same motion, but nothing stops me from changing up the character's motion. I build, say like 25 of these, like I clone this guy 25 times, change up the animation, parent all of those to a null, and then I can take that null, clone hierarchy. Now I've got 25 more people, so now I got 50 people in the scene. Rotate that entire null to kind of position that. Then clone hierarchy. Now I got 75. Or I can take both of those sets and parent those to null, clone hierarchy on that. Now I've got 100 people. So you can quickly populate a scene. You can change up the colors on the you can mix up, say, put together maybe 8 to 12 of these guys, and it's the same model, same morph. You don't have to rebuild any of it, but just put different image maps on it. or just change the colors, and now you have enough variation so that everybody, it doesn't look like a bunch of drones or clones. It'll look like a whole city of people with different colors. Okay, in the last example, I think there were 6 or 7 people kind of mixed up, with the different colors. So it's a quick and easy way. I'm going to load that one scene again. Okay, we'll get the big group here. Okay, it's it's a really quick and easy way to set up these kind of crowds. And again, we know that they're super low poly. We know that there's not any bones or any complex animation going on. But you throw that in the scene in the background, walking down the city or in a mall or something like that, no one's going to know, because at the end of the day, if something is going to be a few pixels tall, you need to see pixels kind of shifting, and we do have a little walk cycle going here. Okay, you don't need to have thousands of polygons with hundreds of bones with IK and all that going on if all you need is crowds of people. So again, quick little setup. I think it's a great setup. I picked it up from Lee Stringer. I think he picked it up from Dave Morton at Foundation. And it's come in really handy on projects where we need to have large groups of people, but we don't want to take a hit for that much geometry or that many bones in the scene or something like that. So again, quick look, easy to set up. Don't forget to build a basic morph, oscillate it in the graph editor so it'll repeat, and just set up your little motion paths for your people, and you're good to go.